Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if your beauty is evolving, becoming even more captivating as time goes on? We're often told that youth is everything, but I think true beauty goes way deeper than that. It's about what shines from within. Today, I want to share some undeniable signs that you are a truly stunning woman, no matter your age. These aren't about surface-level things, they're about something much more profound. Stick with me, because by the end, I hope you'll recognize these qualities in yourself and never doubt your beauty again. We've been conditioned to believe that beauty is something to be chased, something fleeting. We're told to fear wrinkles and fight aging. But I think that's a really limited view. Aging isn't something to mourn, it's something to celebrate. So, how do you know if you're a beautiful woman, even if you don't always feel like it? Well, it's not about your skin or your dress size. It's about how you carry yourself, the confidence you exude, and the wisdom you hold in your eyes. These signs are far deeper than any superficial measure. First, there's something captivating about a woman who moves through the world with grace. It's not a frantic pace, but one that speaks of wisdom. She doesn't rush, because she knows life is a journey, not a race. She's realized that trying to reclaim lost youth is pointless. She moves with a calm purpose, not driven by fear. Her steps are measured, yet confident. It's a quiet confidence that comes from within, from years of living and growing. It says, I've been here before, and I'm still here. It's the confidence of someone who's weathered storms and emerged stronger and more beautiful. And this confidence isn't just in her walk, it's in how she holds herself. She stands tall, not rigidly, but with ease, accepting herself fully. She doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She's fully present, aware of her worth. People are drawn to this magnetic presence. It's her comfort in her own skin. She's not at war with herself. She's simply comfortable, and that radiates outward. Maybe there was a time when she questioned her beauty, compared herself to impossible standards. But she learned that beauty isn't about perfection, it's about presence, about the confidence that comes with knowing who you are and accepting yourself, flaws and all. A woman who's truly lived carries the beauty of experience. She carries the beauty of someone who's faced heartache and loss, yet still finds joy in simple things. She carries the beauty of someone who's laughed deeply, cried freely, and loved fiercely. It's a beauty that comes from embracing all aspects of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and still emerging with grace. The fascinating thing is, she doesn't try to be beautiful. She doesn't chase it. She doesn't stand in front of the mirror searching for flaws. She's outgrown the need for constant affirmation. She knows her worth doesn't depend on how others see her, and that freedom makes her even more captivating. Watch her in conversation. She listens intently, valuing what others have to say. Her words carry weight because they come from a place of deep knowing. She doesn't need to impress anyone. She speaks because she has something to say, and that's enough. And then there's her smile. It's genuine, spontaneous, real. It comes from a heart that's experienced joy and pain and found peace with both. It's not a performance, it's an expression of something true. This is the beauty that comes with age, not the kind that fades, but the kind that grows, not defined by the world, but radiating from within. It's the beauty of a woman who's lived and learned, who's experienced triumph and loss, who's found joy in simple things and peace in unexpected places. And if you recognize yourself in any of these words, maybe it's time to stop questioning your beauty. You are, and always have been, and always will be. And with each year, you only become more so. She doesn't hurry. She doesn't rush into a room needing to announce her presence. She doesn't feel compelled to fill every space with movement or chatter. She has no desire to make a grand entrance. It's not because she lacks confidence, but because she no longer measures her worth by the spotlight. True presence isn't about being the loudest or most admired, it's about being fully herself. Once, she may have felt the need to justify her existence, to prove her worth, to be seen and acknowledged. She may have spent years trying to be more, do more, achieve more, only to realize that her value is never meant to be determined by external forces. She doesn't compete because she understands that there's no real competition. No one else can be her, and she has no interest in being anyone else. Her beauty isn't something that diminishes in comparison to others. It's not threatened by someone younger or thinner. She doesn't view other women as rivals. She knows that beauty is not a limited resource. Her beauty is hers alone, formed by the depth of her soul, the wisdom in her eyes, the kindness in her actions, and the way she carries herself with unshakable ease. She's spent enough time doubting herself to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. She's tried being what others expected, but that time has passed. She's learned that self-worth can't be built on opinions of others. Approval is fleeting, so she stopped looking outward for validation. She turns inward, listening to the voice within. She doesn't seek permission to exist, doesn't wait for an invitation to take up space. She no longer apologizes for her presence or her opinions. She's walked through enough storms to know she's strong. She's endured enough setbacks to know she's resilient. She's faced enough disappointments to understand she'll always rise again. She no longer allows insecurity to dictate her choices. She no longer shrinks herself to make others comfortable. She spent too many years making herself small, and she refuses to do so any longer. When she speaks, people listen, not because she demands attention, but because she speaks with intention. She doesn't fill silences with meaningless words, doesn't ramble to prove her intelligence. She's deliberate, thoughtful, and measured. She knows the value of silence, the power of restraint. When she chooses not to speak at all, it's often more impactful than anything she could say. She's outgrown the need for constant reassurance. She no longer requires validation to feel secure. She doesn't crumble when someone disapproves of her choices, nor does she swell with pride when she's praised. She takes neither personally. She understands that opinions are just that, opinions. They are reflections of others, not of her. She no longer hands over her self-worth to be shaped by fleeting thoughts of people who don't truly know her. She no longer compares herself to the version of herself she once was. She doesn't look at old photographs and wish to go back. She doesn't mourn the passing of time and doesn't feel threatened by the changes in her reflection. She knows now that aging isn't something to fear, but something to embrace. She's lived enough to understand that youth was never the peak and that beauty isn't something that disappears, but something that transforms. She doesn't chase an outdated ideal of who she once was because she's too in love with the woman she's become. She carries herself with a presence that commands respect, though she doesn't seek it. She doesn't strive to be the center of attention, yet people notice her. There's something about her that draws others in, not a desperate need to be liked, but an effortless authenticity that's rare. She has nothing to hide, no pretense to maintain, no false image to uphold. She simply is, and that's enough. She doesn't waste energy explaining herself to those who have already made up their minds about her. She doesn't fight to be understood by those unwilling to see her. She doesn't spend time convincing those who are determined to misunderstand her. She's learned that peace is more valuable than being right, and that walking away is sometimes the strongest thing she can do. She no longer dresses to impress, nails her words to fit expectations, or adjusts her personality to make others more comfortable. She wears what feels good, speaks in a way that feels true, and lives as her most authentic self. She's freed herself from the exhausting performance of trying to be what others want her to be, and because of that, people are drawn to her, not because she's trying to be noticed, but because there's something magnetic about a woman who is entirely herself. She understands that not everyone will like her, and she's at peace with that. She knows she won't be everyone's cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. She doesn't waste energy bending herself to fit into spaces too small for her, and doesn't shrink herself to accommodate those who can't handle her fullness. She spent years learning who she is, and now she simply lives as that person, without apology, without hesitation, without fear. She carries an unmistakable light. It's not the light of youth, not the glow of temporary excitement, but something far deeper, something earned. It's a light that comes from experience, from laughter that has echoed through her bones, from tears that have cleansed her soul, from nights spent questioning and moments spent understanding. It's a light that doesn't flicker with doubt, that doesn't wane with age, but instead grows warmer, richer, and more inviting. When she looks at others, she sees beyond their surface. She sees the hesitations, the insecurities, the quiet fears they carry but don't speak of. She recognizes their struggles because she's faced her own. She understands what it means to feel lost, to search for meaning, to long for belonging, and because she understands, there's something in her presence that makes people feel safe. She doesn't need to say much, doesn't need to offer grand gestures of reassurance. Her very existence, her quiet certainty, her unwavering sense of self, is enough to make those around her feel seen, feel accepted, feel understood. She's lived long enough to know that the greatest power is not in seeking to be noticed, but in simply being, and so she moves through the world, not looking for approval, not chasing recognition, not trying to prove anything. She simply exists as she is, and that in itself is enough. The light in her eyes doesn't come from a life of ease, nor does it stem from a path free of mistakes, disappointments, or struggles. If anything, it's been shaped by the very opposite. It's been forged in the fires of hardship, tempered by seasons of uncertainty, and illuminated by moments of both sorrow and joy. She's faced the kind of heartbreak that leaves a person gasping for air, has stood at the edge of doubt with trembling hands, and has learned through experience, not theory, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving forward despite it. She's known the sting of betrayal and the ache of goodbyes that came too soon. She's watched dreams slip through her fingers like sand, has mourned the loss of what could have been, and has wrestled with questions that had no clear answers, and yet, through it all, she's never allowed the weight of her struggles to extinguish her spirit. If anything, those hardships have carved out space within her for something deeper, something richer, a resilience that's not loud or forceful, but steady and unwavering. She's chosen, time and time again, to keep her inner fire burning, to seek out beauty even amid pain, to find meaning in moments both grand and ordinary. There's a profound difference between a woman who has simply aged and a woman who has truly lived. The former collects years, the latter collects wisdom. The former marks time, the latter embraces it. The former watches life happen, the latter participates in it fully, wholeheartedly, without holding back, and that difference is visible, not in obvious ways, but in the quiet strength she carries, in the way she moves through the world with a presence that cannot be ignored. Her wisdom isn't something she needs to announce or prove. It's simply there, woven into the fabric of her being. It's present in the way she listens, with eyes that don't merely look, but truly see. It's in the way she speaks, carefully choosing words that uplift rather than diminish. It's in the way she carries herself, not with arrogance, but with an unshakable confidence that comes from knowing who she is. She no longer feels the need to explain herself and no longer wastes time trying to make others understand her journey. She's made peace with the fact that not everyone will, and that's perfectly fine. She's laughed in the face of adversity, not because life has been kind, but because she's learned that laughter is a form of survival. She's found joy in the simplest things, not because she's had an easy life, but because she's learned to recognize happiness in the smallest of moments, the scent of rain on the warm pavement, the way the ocean hums against the shore, the sound of a loved one's voice on the other end of the phone. She understands now that happiness isn't something to be chased or captured, not something waiting on the other side of success or perfection. It's something to be noticed, something to be cultivated, something to be held in the present moment before it slips away. When she enters the room, people feel a shift. They may not be able to articulate it, but they sense it, that warmth, that presence, that quiet energy that draws them in. It's not about conventional beauty. It has nothing to do with youthful, flawless skin or anything that can be captured in a photograph. It's about something deeper. It's about the soul. It's about a life fully embraced, fully lived, fully felt. Some fear aging, fight against time as if it were an enemy to be conquered, and believe that beauty is something fragile, something that must be preserved at all costs. They chase youth with desperation, trying to hold on to something that was never meant to last. And then there are others like her, women who understand that real beauty isn't something that fades with time, but something that deepens. It isn't found in smooth skin or symmetrical features, but in the way a person carries their experiences, in the way they love without reservation, in the way they give without expecting, in the way they still look at the world with wonder, even after everything they've seen. Her eyes still hold that wonder, not because she's naive, but because she's chosen to. She's seen enough of life to become cynical, yet she's deliberately refused to let bitterness take grip. She's witnessed the cruelty of the world, yet she still believes in the goodness of people. She's been hurt, yet she still loves. She's been disappointed, yet she still hopes, and that choice to believe in beauty, in kindness, in possibility is what sets her apart. She still finds magic in the ordinary, the golden light of the late afternoon sun, the way the wind dances through the trees, the quiet comfort of a familiar song playing in the background. She still marvels at the sky, at the endless stretch of stars above her, at the miracle of being alive. She's discovered, after all these years, that joy isn't something external, not something granted by the world, but something that lives within, and because she's learned to nurture it, to protect it, she radiates a sense of peace that's rare in this world. When she looks at you, you feel it, that light, that warmth, that quiet assurance that everything will be okay, not because she has all the answers, but because she's walked through fire and emerged not unscathed, but strong. She doesn't need to convince you of anything. She doesn't need to prove herself. She simply exists as she is, and somehow that's enough. There comes a time in a woman's life when she no longer waits for the world to tell her she's beautiful. She no longer seeks approval in a mirror, searches for validation in the eyes of others, and no longer measures herself against the impossible standards she once thought she had to reach. She's spent years adjusting, shrinking, and trying to fit into the narrow mold that society has carved out for beauty. She's dieted, contorted, compared, and criticized, always chasing an ideal that was never truly hers to begin with. And then one day, she stops, not out of rebellion, not out of defiance, but out of something far more powerful, realization. She realizes that beauty was never something she needed permission to have. It was never something to be earned, never something reserved only for the young, only for the unblemished, only for those who fit a certain mold. It was hers all along, even in the moments she doubted it, even when she was too busy critiquing herself to see it, even when she let others define it for her. But now she knows, and that knowing changes everything. She no longer feels the need to apologize for the lines that have settled on her face, for the gentle softness that time has woven into her body, for the unmistakable signs of a life deeply and fully lived. She no longer tries to erase the years from her skin or silence the echoes of her past, because she's come to understand that they aren't burdens to carry or flaws to correct. They are a testament, a living record of moments that have shaped her, that have strengthened her, that have made her into the person she is today. Each line tells a story, and each crease holds a memory, a reminder of the laughter that shook her shoulders, the tears that traced down her cheeks, and the countless sunrises and sunsets she has witnessed. They are proof that she has felt deeply, that she has embraced joy and sorrow alike, that she has lived a life worth remembering, and truly, what could be more beautiful than that? She no longer dresses for the approval of the world, nor does she paint her face to fit an outdated notion of beauty. She doesn't feel the pressure to shrink herself, to present herself in a way that makes others comfortable, or to chase an ideal that was never meant for her to begin with. Instead, she embraces her rhythm, her preferences, and her standards. She chooses what makes her feel good, what makes her feel like herself. Some days that might mean stepping into bold, vibrant colours that reflect her inner fire, letting her silver streak curls dance freely in the breeze, or wearing a statement piece that demands attention. On other days, it might mean opting for simplicity, for the ease of bare skin, a soft cotton dress, and the quiet confidence that speaks louder than any adornment ever could. But the difference now is this: every choice is hers alone, not made to fit an expectation, not made to gain approval, not made to secure validation. She has stepped beyond the need to be admired, beyond the need to conform. She has reclaimed herself fully and completely. She no longer waits for compliments to feel beautiful, to feel worthy, to feel enough. When someone tells her she's radiant, she accepts it with a warm smile, not because she needs to hear it, but because she has already embraced it within herself. The words are merely an affirmation of something she already knows, and if no one says it, that's perfectly fine too. She doesn't rely on external validation to define what she has already claimed as her own. She no longer shrinks to make others comfortable, and no longer dims her light so that others might feel brighter by comparison. She does not hide her confidence, does not downplay her presence, and does not pretend to be less than she is. She understands now that true beauty is not a game of competition, not a matter of outshining another. It's not about being better, younger, slimmer, or more desirable in the eyes of the world. It's about authenticity. It's about standing firm in her truth, about honouring the journey she has taken to become the woman she is today. She no longer fears aging, because she sees what so many fail to recognise, that with each passing year she has grown richer in wisdom, deeper in understanding, and more fascinating in the ways that truly matter. With time, she has not lost anything of value. Instead, she has gained layers of depth, layers of resilience, and layers of self-assurance that cannot be manufactured or faked. She sees now that beauty is not something that fades with time, but something that evolves, something that is refined, something that becomes more powerful with each experience. It's not in the absence of wrinkles, but in the presence of grace. It's not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the embrace of imperfection. It's in the way she carries herself, head high, eyes alight with wisdom, laughter spilling freely from her lips. It's in the way she speaks, with certainty, no longer hesitant, no longer seeking approval. It's in the way she meets her reflection, not with scrutiny, but with kindness, with gratitude, with love. She no longer waits for permission to shine. She no longer searches for signs that she is still desirable, still relevant, still enough, because she knows now that she always was. The world may not always recognize it. Society may not always celebrate it, but none of that matters. She has learned that she doesn't need permission to exist beautifully. She doesn't need permission to be worthy. She doesn't need permission to be enough. She has stopped asking the world for what she has already given herself, and in that moment, in that unwavering certainty, she becomes more radiant than ever before. She embraces each new day with an openness she never had in her youth. She has learned to savour the small moments, to breathe in the beauty of the world around her. She finds joy in the first sip of morning coffee, in the warmth of the sun on her skin, and in the laughter of friends who have stood beside her through the decades. She has shed the weight of insecurities that once held her back, understanding now that her worth was never tied to youth, never tied to appearance, never tied to anyone's expectations but her own. She walks with a confidence that is not forced, but earned. She has learned to take up space unapologetically, to speak her mind without hesitation, and to set boundaries with love and firmness. She has let go of the need to please, the need to be liked, and the need to be understood by everyone. She has embraced the beautiful truth that not everyone will see her light, and that is perfectly fine. She does not need universal approval to feel whole. She has become her source of love, her source of acceptance, her source of peace. She no longer fears change, because she has learned that change is simply another word for growth. She has reinvented herself time and time again, learning that transformation is not just for the young, but for anyone who chooses to evolve. She knows now that life does not end with age. It expands, it deepens, it becomes more profound. She welcomes new experiences with curiosity, knowing that every moment holds the possibility of wonder. She no longer clings to the past, nor does she dread the future. She lives fully, completely, without hesitation. She is not just growing older, she is growing wiser, stronger, and more radiant with every passing year, and that in itself is the most beautiful thing of all. And there you have it. True beauty isn't about age, perfection, or meeting society's standards. It's about confidence, presence, and the way you carry the wisdom and experiences life has given you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What have you learned from this? What is one thing you'll bring into your life starting today? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you've enjoyed this and want more content like this to help you live your best life, maybe consider sticking around. See you in the next video.